By the coldest week of her first winter, she was the only one left of four, and the only one who still remembered what her mother's fingers had once taught her own to do. The trash can she needed was still standing where it always stood, tipped against the fence at the edge of the yard. But someone had wrapped a new steel clasp around its lid that autumn, and for 3 nights running she had gone home hungry. She was 11 months old. She weighed less than she had in October, and on the fourth night, with the temperature falling below freezing and nothing left anywhere else on her map of the block, she sat down in front of that clasp and did not move. This is the raccoon mind, and if you have ever found a bin tipped over at dawn and blamed bad luck, stay for this one. What she does to that clasp before sunrise is not luck, and it is not strength. It is something she was shown, months earlier, by someone who is not in this yard anymore, and the last lock she opens tonight is the reason I now lock my own back door differently than I used to. If you are new here, a quiet subscribe helps more than you would think, and it costs you nothing. Settle in. The story runs about 12 minutes, same as every night in this yard, and it is never wasted time. 10 months before that frozen night, she had been one of four, born blind and pink in a hollow 40 feet up an old oak at the edge of the yard. The kind of hollow raccoons return to for generations. A whole family history stacked inside a tree a homeowner has never once looked up into. Her mother raised all four of them alone that spring. 2 brothers, a sister and her, the smallest of the litter, with a small pale notch of fur above her left eye that never filled in, and a leaner frame than the others even as she grew. By early summer, the four of them were following their mother down the trunk each dusk, learning the yard the way she had learned it, not as a map of streets, but as a map of textures. The wooden stairs leading up to the porch light, the gap beneath the deck, the chain-link fence line where the neighbor's dog could reach, and the 6 feet of grass just beyond it where the dog could not. There was a shallow puddle near the koi pond 2 yards over, and it was there, on a humid night in June, that her mother first showed her something the internet still gets wrong. People who watch a raccoon dip its food in water assume it is washing the food, the way a person would at a sink. It is not. A raccoon's front paws are among the most sensitive in the entire animal kingdom. An almost absurd share of the brain is devoted to what those 5 bare fingers can feel, more per inch than a hand that size has any right to carry. When the paws go wet, that sense sharpens further, the way your own fingertips read Braille better when they are damp. Her mother was not cleaning anything that night at the pond. She was seeing with her hands, turning a half-drowned crayfish over and over in the shallows until she understood exactly what it was and exactly how to hold it. Her daughter tried it herself a week later, on a beetle in the same puddle, fumbling it twice before she felt the shape settle correctly under her fingers. It was the first time she understood that her paws could tell her more than her eyes could, especially after dark, especially in water. It was at the green municipal bin with the bungee cord, though, on a warm night in July, that her mother taught her the thing that would matter most. She did not tear at the latch the way her brothers did, wasting their strength against metal that did not care how hard they pulled. She sat in front of it, turned her face away, and let her fingers do the looking instead, easing the loop back and forth until the give in it revealed itself. Her daughter watched this 4 nights running before she understood it was not a trick. It was a method. On the 5th night, paws still clumsy, she tried it herself, and the loop slipped free under her own hands for the first time in her life. Through August and September, that same patience sharpened on everything the yard offered. A pickle jar left uncapped on the porch rail. A cabinet latch a tired homeowner forgot to secure. The stubborn clasp on the trash can by the garage, which took her 11 tries the first week and 4 the second. She was never the strongest of the litter. Both her brothers were heavier than she was by September, but she was consistently the fastest to solve whatever was new. And by the last warm week of the season, her mother had started to notice it too, watching a little longer than she needed to each time her smallest kit worked a lock loose. Then the nights got short, the leaves came down, and something in all four of them began to feel restless in a way none of them had words for and none of them needed. Researchers call this natal dispersal, the point, usually in a raccoon's first winter or the following spring, when young raccoons leave their mother's territory for good, pushed out gently or simply pulled away by an instinct nobody has fully explained, even after decades of studying it. Her brothers went first, drifting toward the far side of the neighborhood within the same restless week, each alone, each following whatever compass young raccoons follow when they leave. She does not know what became of either of them. One street over, there is a story about a raccoon caught by a great horned owl at the tree line in November, taken so quietly the neighbor only found the evidence at dawn. She has no way of knowing if it was him. Neither, honestly, do we, but it is the ordinary shape that a young raccoon's first winter takes, more often than anyone likes to say out loud. Her sister denned closer, in a chimney 2 streets away, and for a while the two of them still crossed the same fence line some nights, trading the low, questioning chirr raccoons use to check whether a shape in the dark is a stranger or is family. Then the visits thinned, and then they stopped. The honest math of a raccoon's first year is unforgiving. Cold, hunger, cars, and larger predators take a majority of kits before they see a second winter, and nothing about that math cares how clever any one of them was that summer. She stayed near the old yard, because the old yard still had the oak, and the oak still had the hollow, and the hollow was warm enough on the worst nights if she curled in tight and slept the long, heavy sleep raccoons used to survive the cold. It is not true hibernation. Nothing in a raccoon's body drops that deep, just enough torpor to burn less fat than moving through freezing air would cost her. Raccoons that make it through a hard winter can lose close to half the weight they carried into October, and she had already lost most of that by the time the first real frost came. Cities, it turns out, may be quietly training raccoons like her to be sharper than their rural counterparts ever needed to be. Researchers studying urban populations have found they solve mechanical problems faster and try more approaches before giving up, as if the sheer density of locked bins and latched gates were its own slow classroom. She had grown up in exactly that classroom, at exactly the right age to learn it. And then on the same week the first hard frost settled in, the trash can by the garage, the one dependable meal left on her entire map, grew a second latch. A new steel clasp, tighter and better fitted than the old one, installed by a homeowner tired of finding the lid on the ground each morning. She tried it the way she always had. It did not give. She tried it again the next night. It still did not give. By the third night, she had not eaten in 2 full days, and the only food left anywhere in her territory was locked behind something built specifically to stop her. This is where the story comes back to where it started the fourth night, the temperature settling below freezing, her sitting in front of that clasp with nothing left to try but the one thing she still remembered. She turned her face away from it, the way her mother had at the pond, the way her mother had at the bungee cord that July night. She let her front paws do the looking instead of her eyes, easing across the cold metal, hunting for the seam where the old kind of give might still be hiding under the new steel. It took longer than anything she had ever solved before. Twice her paws slipped in the cold, and she had to start again from the edge. And twice, she stopped altogether and simply sat, breathing, before trying again. In controlled studies of raccoon problem-solving, Animals given a set of complex mechanical locks have managed to open the large majority of them, 11 out of 13, in one well-known trial, even after the locks were rearranged or turned upside down, and have gone on remembering the correct solution as long as a year later. Nobody built that clasp on the garage can to be beaten by patience. But patience, and a memory of her mother's fingers from a July night 10 months gone, were exactly what she had left. On her ninth attempt that night, the clasp gave. The lid came free, and underneath it was more food than she had found in 4 days combined, enough to carry her through the coldest stretch of the entire winter, the stretch that quietly ends the raccoons who cannot solve whatever stands between them and morning. She did not win that fight with strength. Her brothers, heavier and stronger than she had ever been, might not have solved it at all. Dispersal carried them somewhere else before Winter could even ask them the question. She won it with something quieter, a lesson from a mother she will very likely never see again, carried through an entire season of cold, ready on the one night it mattered most. She is close to 3 years old now, which is old for a backyard raccoon, and older than either of her brothers ever got to be. She still returns to that same yard some nights, though the family in the house has changed the latch twice more since that winter, and each time, eventually, she solves it again. Somewhere nearby, if the pattern holds the way it usually does, she likely has kits of her own by now, and on some warm night this past summer, in front of some ordinary latch, one of them was almost certainly watching her hands and beginning to understand, the way she once did, that this was never a trick. It was a method, passed down the only way a raccoon has to pass anything down at all. There is a raccoon in your yard tonight, or one street over, facing some version of that same steel clasp, and you will sleep through every second of the fight. Most people hear a bin tip over at 3 in the morning and think only of the mess in the morning. You know now what is actually happening on the other side of that sound, a whole life, staked on a memory of someone else's hands. And the next time you find muddy paw prints circling the lid of a can you were certain was locked, you will know exactly what it means. It means she remembered. If you have ever raised something through a hard season, or lost a sibling too young, or learned a skill from someone who is not around anymore to see you use it, I would like to hear about it in the comments. I read everyone, and I will see you in the next one.